I'm Ella, 27 years old, and family dinners at my parents' house have always been tense affairs. Tonight was no different, except for the bombshell they casually dropped between passing the mashed potatoes. Amanda will be moving in with you next month, Mom announced, as if discussing the weather. Dad nodded approvingly, while my sister texted, barely looking up. I just smiled and let them talk mentally, picturing my new apartment across town, with its secure entrance and doorman they knew absolutely nothing about. If you're watching this, let me know where you're from in the comments, and hit subscribe to join me on this journey of setting boundaries and finding freedom. My childhood was defined by being the responsible one, while my sister Amanda got all the attention. Growing up in a middle-class household in Minneapolis, I learned early that my achievements would never quite measure up to Amanda's needs. Our parents, Richard and Diana, established this dynamic from the beginning. When I was 8, I won first place in the science fair, with a project on renewable energy that took weeks to build. That same day, Amanda had a minor role in the school play. My parents skipped my award ceremony to attend her performance, leaving me to accept my blue ribbon alone, while my teacher gave me sympathetic glances. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. My straight A's were expected and rarely celebrated, while Amanda's occasional B- earned ice cream trips and excessive praise. My father would ruffle her hair and say, "Look who's turning into the smart one," completely overlooking my perfect report card sitting on the same table. When I was 12, I saved up for months for my babysitting job to buy a bicycle. 2 weeks later, Amanda mentioned wanting one, and our parents bought her a better model the very next day. When I pointed out the unfairness, my mother said, "Your sister needs more encouragement than you do, Ella. You should be mature enough to understand that by now." The disparity became even more pronounced during my teenage years. I joined debate team student council and volunteered at the local animal shelter, partly because I enjoyed these activities, but also in a futile attempt to win some parental approval. Meanwhile, Amanda cycled through hobbies and friend groups. Each dramatic change met with my parents' unwavering support and financial backing. When I was 16, my father received a significant promotion that required our family to relocate from Minneapolis to Chicago. I had to leave behind my friends and extracurricular activities that would have looked excellent on college applications. I remember asking if I could stay with my aunt to finish high school, with my established social circle and activities. The answer was an immediate no, with my mother explaining, "We need to stay together as a family, especially for Amanda's sake. She needs stability right now." College further highlighted the discrepancy in how we were treated. I applied for scholarships, worked 20 hours a week at a coffee shop, and took out student loans to attend Northwestern University. Meanwhile, my parents paid Amanda's full tuition at a private liberal arts college, despite her mediocre grades and tendency to switch majors every semester. When she wanted to study abroad in Italy, they covered that too, calling it an essential cultural experience. When I needed a new laptop for my graphic design courses, they suggested I pick up extra shifts. After graduation, I secured an entry-level position at a digital marketing firm in downtown Chicago. The starting salary was modest, but I was proud to support myself completely. I found an affordable apartment with a roommate named Taylor, who quickly became my closest friend. We shared a small 2-bedroom place in Lakeview, splitting expenses down the middle and creating a peaceful home away from my family's drama. My career progressed steadily as I worked my way up from marketing assistant to specialist over 4 years. The tech company I worked for recognized my dedication and skills, promoting me to senior marketing specialist just 2 months ago. This promotion came with a decent salary bump, allowing me to consider a slightly better living situation for the first time. Despite living in the same city, I limited my family interactions to monthly dinners and occasional holiday gatherings. These obligations were always tense, with my mother making subtle digs about my appearance, career choice, or relationship status. "Still wearing that same blazer, Ella? Maybe we should go shopping," or "Have you thought about applying to that advertising agency your father's friend manages? They pay much better than tech startups." Meanwhile, Amanda had graduated with an art history degree, but struggled to find related employment. She moved back home temporarily and cycled through various retail and restaurant jobs, never staying more than a few months at each. My parents never pressured her to find stable employment or move out instead, praising her for finding herself and not settling for corporate drudgery in thinly veiled criticisms of my career choices. In recent months, these family dinners had grown increasingly uncomfortable as my parents dropped hints about family helping family and siblings supporting each other through tough times. I noticed them asking more questions about my apartment, my roommate situation, and my work schedule, but I naively attributed this to general interest in my life. Taylor had recently decided to move in with her boyfriend, leaving me at a crossroads. I could either find another roommate or use my recent promotion to afford a place on my own. After years of compromising on living spaces, I yearned for a place that was truly mine, where I could decorate how I wanted and come and go without coordinating with another person. I found a small but modern one-bedroom apartment in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. It stretched my budget to the limit, requiring careful financial planning and some sacrifices in other areas of spending, but the independence it represented was worth every penny. The location, cut 15 minutes from my commute, had a small balcony overlooking a tree-lined street, and most importantly, was completely mine. What I didn't realize at the time was how my family's increasing inquiries about my living situation were laying the groundwork for their plan, one that would come to light during our next family dinner and force me to finally take a stand. The family dinner that changed everything took place on a Sunday evening in late September. The Chicago weather had just begun its transition to fall, with leaves starting to turn and a crisp edge to the evening air. I arrived at my parents' suburban home precisely at 6, knowing that being even 5 minutes late would trigger a series of passive-aggressive comments from my mother about my busy, important life. Their house was exactly as it had always been, a spacious colonial-style home, with traditional furniture and family photos covering nearly every wall. Most of these photos featured Amanda at various ages, with me appearing primarily in obligatory family portraits. The dining room was formally set with the good china, which meant my mother was already in performance mode. The familiar scent of my mother's pot roast filled the air as I hung my jacket in the entryway closet. Before I could even make it to the living room, my mother's voice called out from the kitchen. "Ella, is that you? Come help me with these vegetables." I dutifully made my way to the kitchen where my mother stood arranging a vegetable platter. She looked me up and down, her lips pursing slightly. "That haircut is certainly interesting," she said, touching her own perfectly highlighted bob. "Very modern, I suppose, though it does make your face look a bit round." "Thanks, Mom," I replied flatly, reaching for a knife to help with the carrots. My father entered, scotch in hand, and gave me a brief side hug. "There she is. How's work treating you? Still at that tech place?" "Yes, Dad. In fact, I just got promoted to senior marketing specialist last month." "That's nice," he said, clearly unimpressed. "But is there much growth opportunity there? My golf buddy's son works at Goldman Sachs, started around the same time you began working. He's already managing a team of 12. Before I could respond, the front door flew open dramatically, and Amanda made her entrance. Despite living with our parents, she somehow always arrived after me, ensuring she had a proper audience for her appearance. "Sorry, I'm late," she announced, though no one had mentioned her tardiness. "Traffic was insane, and then I had to take a call from Jordan." Jordan was her on-again, off-again boyfriend of 3 years, their relationship status changing so frequently that I had stopped trying to keep track. "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" My mother immediately abandoned the vegetables to give Amanda her full attention. "Not really." Amanda sighed heavily, dropping onto a kitchen stool. "We had another fight. I don't think it's working out." My father's demeanor instantly softened as he patted Amanda's shoulder. "His loss. You're too good for him anyway." I continued silently chopping vegetables, the familiar feeling of invisibility settling over me like an old sweater. Dinner was served with my mother's usual flair for presentation. She had prepared all of my father's favorites, but none of mine. Another subtle reminder of where I stood in the family hierarchy. As we settled around the dining table, my father cleared his throat in the way he always did, before making what he considered an important announcement. "So, Ella," he began, serving himself a generous portion of pot roast, "your mother and I have been discussing Amanda's situation." My stomach tightened instinctively. Whenever my parents discussed situations, it inevitably led to expectations being placed on me. With her and Jordan breaking up, my mother continued seamlessly. She'll need to move out of their apartment by the end of the month. I nodded cautiously, taking a sip of water to delay having to respond. Since Taylor just moved out and you have that extra bedroom now, my father stated matter-of-factly, we thought it would be perfect for Amanda to move in with you. The casual way they dropped this bombshell, as if it were already decided, made my blood run cold. Amanda didn't even look up from her phone, clearly already aware and in agreement with this plan that had been made without any consultation with me. It's really the perfect solution. My mother continued, passing the mashed potatoes. Amanda needs a place, and you shouldn't be living alone anyway. It's not safe for a young woman in the city. I've lived in the city for 6 years, I said quietly, but my comment went unacknowledged. Plus, my father added with a magnanimous gesture, we'd be willing to chip in a little extra toward the rent. Not much, mind you, but enough to offset some of the burden. The way he said burden, as if my sister living with me would be doing me a favor, made me grip my fork tighter. Amanda's going through a tough time, my mother explained, as if I hadn't witnessed my sister's dramatic entrance minutes earlier. She has such a sensitive nature, and this breakup has been so hard on her. Jordan is such a jerk. Amanda finally spoke, still not making eye contact with me. He gave me barely any notice. Where am I supposed to go? The answer apparently was my apartment, without anyone bothering to ask if that worked for me. We could move her things next weekend. My father continued, pulling out his phone to check his calendar. I can rent a small truck. Most of her furniture is still in storage from when she moved in with Jordan. And I can help you rearrange your apartment to make space, my mother added. That living room of yours could use some updating anyway. As they continued planning, I sat in stunned silence, calculating my response. Years of experience had taught me that immediate confrontation would only lead to being labeled as difficult, selfish, or dramatic. Instead, I watched and listened as they planned my life without my input, mentally cataloging each boundary violation to fuel my resolve. I thought back to all the times I had acquiesced to their demands and expectations, always putting my needs last. The familiar sensation of heat rising from my chest to my neck signaled the anger and resentment building inside me. But my face remained neutral, a skill perfected over decades of family dinners like this one. Amanda will need the larger bedroom, of course, my mother was saying. Her queen bed won't fit in the smaller room, and she needs space for her vanity. And you'll need to be quiet in the mornings, Amanda added, finally looking at me. You know I can't function before 10, and your early workout routine would totally disrupt my sleep. They continued making demands disguised as plans, completely oblivious to the fact that their entire premise was flawed. I had no extra bedroom. I had no space for Amanda, or her queen bed, or her vanity. Most importantly, I had no obligation to solve her housing crisis. But they didn't know that yet. And some small vindictive part of me wanted to let them continue digging this hole a little longer. What my family didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, because I had deliberately kept it from them, was that I no longer lived in the 2-bedroom apartment they were so busily planning to invade. 2 months ago, when Taylor announced she was moving in with her boyfriend, I made a decision that would ultimately become my declaration of independence. Instead of finding another roommate, I had taken my recent promotion as an opportunity to find a place that was truly mine. After 6 years of sharing space with others, first in college dorms and then with Taylor, I craved a sanctuary that reflected only my tastes and needs. I wanted to come home to a space where I didn't have to compromise or consider anyone else's preferences. I spent weeks searching for the perfect apartment, scouring listings during lunch breaks and scheduling viewings after work. The rental market in Chicago was competitive, especially for affordable 1-bedrooms in decent neighborhoods. I was about to give up when my real estate agent called about a last-minute cancellation for a viewing in Wicker Park. The moment I walked into the apartment, I knew it was the one. It wasn't particularly spacious, but the layout made efficient use of every square foot. Large windows flooded the living area with natural light, and the bedroom, though modest, had a walk-in closet I'd always dreamed of. The kitchen featured updated appliances and enough counter space for my weekend baking projects. But the real selling point was the small balcony overlooking a quiet tree-lined street, the perfect spot for morning coffee or evening glasses of wine. I submitted my application that same day, offering to pay an extra security deposit to secure the place. When the approval came through, I felt a thrill of independence unlike anything I'd experienced before. The moving process was a covert operation meticulously planned to ensure my family remained unaware. I scheduled the move for a Tuesday when I knew my parents would be at their weekly golf game and dinner with friends. I hired a moving company with excellent reviews for efficiency, knowing I needed everything transported and set up in a single day. My colleagues from work volunteered to help forming an assembly line to carry boxes from the old apartment to the moving truck. My boss even gave me 2 days off to get settled, a kindness that brought tears to my eyes when she insisted I take the time without using vacation days. Taylor helped pack up our shared kitchen items, insisting I take the better quality pots and pans we had purchased together. "Mark's place is fully stocked already," she explained. "Besides, you're the one who actually cooks. I just heat things up." By evening, I stood in my new apartment surrounded by boxes, but filled with an incredible sense of accomplishment. For the first time, every decision about my living space had been made solely by me. The pale blue paint I'd chosen for the living room walls exactly matched the color I'd always wanted, but had compromised on with Taylor, who preferred neutral tones. The furniture arrangement maximized the view from the windows, rather than being oriented toward the television. Small decisions, perhaps, but each one a tiny declaration of self-determination. Over the next few weeks, I transformed the apartment into my sanctuary. I hung artwork I loved without seeking anyone's approval. I bought plants that required daily attention, something I couldn't have done with my previous travel schedule. I splurged on luxury bedding, justifying the expense, by calculating the hours I spent sleeping and the value of proper rest. The building itself offered amenities that made me feel secure and independent. The entrance required a key fob, and a doorman was on duty evenings and weekends. Package deliveries were held securely until I could retrieve them. The location in Wicker Park meant I needed to take a different train line to work one that wouldn't intersect with my parents' suburban route, further insulating me from accidental encounters. My decision to keep the move secret wasn't made lightly. I had valid reasons for withholding this information from my family, reasons rooted in decades of boundary violations and disrespect. There was the time my mother used her spare key to my previous apartment to surprise clean, while I was at work rearranging my kitchen and throwing out food she deemed unhealthy. When confronted, she acted hurt, saying she was just trying to help, and making me feel guilty for being upset about the invasion of privacy. There were Amanda's unannounced visits, always coinciding with times when she needed something, whether it was to borrow clothes without asking raid my refrigerator or crash on my couch after fights with Jordan. These items were rarely returned, and my couch was never relinquished without drama. There were my father's financial intrusions, questioning every purchase I made if he happened to see a shopping bag or new item in my apartment. "Should you really be spending money on that?" He would ask about a $30 houseplant, while never questioning Amanda's designer purchases funded by their credit card. Most importantly, there was my growing understanding, reinforced by sessions with my therapist, Dr. Melissa, that healthy boundaries were not just a luxury, but a necessity for my mental well-being. "Your home should be your safe space," she had told me during a particularly emotional session. "You have the right to control who enters that space and when." Those therapy sessions had been transformative, helping me recognize the patterns of emotional manipulation in my family dynamics. Dr. Melissa helped me understand that my desire for privacy and autonomy wasn't selfish, but normal and healthy. She gave me tools to manage the guilt that invariably followed any attempt to establish boundaries with my family. With her encouragement, I had begun building a support network outside my family. My work friends became confidants who validated my feelings rather than dismissing them. My boss became a mentor who recognized my professional value when my family could not. Taylor, who had witnessed many tearful phone calls after family interactions, became the sister I wished Amanda could be, supportive and respectful of my boundaries. In our most recent session before the family dinner, Dr. Melissa and I had discussed my progress in prioritizing my needs. "You've come so far in recognizing your worth," she said. The next step is acting on that recognition when tested. Little did I know how soon and how dramatically that test would come. As my parents and Amanda continued planning her move into my supposed spare bedroom, I felt something shift inside me. Years of suppressed frustration crystallized into a moment of clarity. This pattern would never end unless I ended it. "And we'll need to get a storage unit for some of your things," my mother was saying, cutting her pot roast into precise bites. "Your apartment is too cluttered for Amanda's belongings. Maybe you could stay with a friend for the first weekend while she settles in." My father suggested, not looking up from his plate. "Give her some space to adjust." Amanda nodded in agreement. "That would be better. I need time to make the space work for me." The casual entitlement in their voices, the complete assumption that my home, my sanctuary, could be commandeered without my consent, pushed me to the breaking point. "It's the least you could do." My father added his tone, suggesting he was being entirely reasonable. "After all we've done for you." I placed my fork down deliberately beside my plate, the small clink of metal against china drawing their attention. I cleared my throat, interrupting my mother's detailed explanation of how Amanda's furniture would better suit my living room. "I moved 2 months ago," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Wicker Park now." The silence that followed was absolute. My mother's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My father's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to anger in rapid succession. Amanda's head snapped up from her phone, her eyes wide with shock. "What do you mean you moved?" my mother finally asked, her voice unnaturally high. "I mean exactly that," I replied, maintaining eye contact. "When Taylor moved out, I decided to get my own place. A one-bedroom apartment. There is no spare room for Amanda or anyone else." "Why wouldn't you tell us something like that?" my father demanded, his face reddening. "What kind of person keeps secrets from their family? The kind who needs privacy and independence," I answered, surprised by my own steadiness. "The kind who's tired of having her boundaries ignored." "This is just like you," Amanda spat, throwing her napkin onto the table. "Always so selfish. You knew I was having problems with Jordan. You knew I might need a place to stay." "No, Amanda, I didn't know. No one asked me. No one consulted me. You all just decided what would happen with my life and my space, just like you always do." My mother's eyes filled with tears, her go-to response whenever confronted. "I can't believe you would hide something this important from us. We're your family. We have a right to know these things." "You don't actually," I said, the words feeling foreign but right on my tongue. "My living situation is my private business. I'm 27 years old. I don't need permission or approval for my housing decisions." My father pushed back from the table, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "This is absolutely unacceptable behavior, Ella. Your sister needs help, and you're turning your back on her. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." The familiar tactic of bringing up unspecified debts I supposedly owed them no longer worked its magic of guilt and compliance. "What exactly have you done for me, Dad? Paid for Amanda's education while I worked and took out loans for mine. Given her emotional support while telling me to toughen up. Please enlighten me about these tremendous sacrifices I'm failing to appreciate." The room seemed to vibrate with tension. My mother sobbed quietly, dabbing at her eyes with a linen napkin. Amanda glared at me with genuine hatred, as if I had deliberately orchestrated her breakup just to deny her a place to live. "How could you be so cruel?" my mother whispered. "Your own sister out on the street." "She's not on the street, Mom. She lives here with you. The same parents who paid her full tuition and study abroad expenses can surely help her find an apartment if that's what she needs." "We shouldn't have to," my father countered, his voice rising. "That's what family is for, to help each other. But I guess you don't consider yourself part of this family anymore, do you?" The accusation was meant to hurt, to make me backtrack and apologize. Instead, it clarified exactly what family meant in this context: unquestioning compliance with their demands, regardless of my own needs or boundaries. "I consider myself part of a healthy family," I said quietly. "One where members respect each other's boundaries and don't make unilateral decisions about each other's lives. If that's not the kind of family we have, then maybe we need to redefine our relationships." The confrontation escalated quickly after my revelation. My father paced the dining room, his voice growing louder with each circuit around the table. "Where exactly is this apartment?" he demanded. "We should at least know where our daughter lives." "I'm not comfortable sharing that information right now," I replied, hands folded calmly in my lap despite my racing heart. "Not comfortable," he repeated incredulously. "What do you think we're going to do, break in?" The irony of his question, given my mother's history of unauthorized entry into my previous apartment, wasn't lost on me. "I need some space and privacy right now. When I'm ready to share more details about my living situation, I will." My mother, having moved past tears to indignation, jumped in. "This is ridiculous. We're your parents, not strangers. We have every right to know where you live." "No, you don't," I said firmly. "Adults have the right to privacy even from their parents, especially when those parents have a history of not respecting boundaries." "What boundaries?" my mother scoffed. "I've always given you plenty of space. Like when you used your emergency key to rearrange my kitchen. Or when you showed up unannounced because you were in the neighborhood, even though my apartment was 20 minutes out of your way." "I was trying to help," she protested. "Help would have been asking if I wanted or needed assistance. What you did was assert control." Amanda, who had been sulking silently, suddenly re-entered the conversation. "This is so typical. Ella always has to be difficult, always has to make everything about her." "This is about me," I responded, feeling a surge of frustration. "It's about my home, my space, my boundaries, which all of you were planning to override without even asking me." "We can work with the one bedroom," my father said, shifting tactics. "Amanda could take the bedroom, and you could sleep on a pull-out couch in the living room. We'd pay the difference in rent, of course." The absurdity of his suggestion that I should give up my bedroom in my own apartment left me momentarily speechless. "Dad, I'm not giving Amanda my bedroom. I'm not giving her my couch. I'm not giving her any part of my apartment because it's my apartment, which I pay for entirely by myself." "So selfish," Amanda muttered. "You've always been selfish." "It's not selfish to want my own space," I countered. "It's not selfish to expect to be consulted about decisions that affect my life." "What about family loyalty?" my father demanded. "What about being there for each other?" "Loyalty goes both ways," I said. "Has anyone at this table considered what I might need? Has anyone asked me about my day, my promotion, my life? Or is this relationship only about what I can do for all of you?" My mother gasped as if I'd slapped her. "How can you say such horrible things? We've always supported you." "No, Mom, you've always supported Amanda." I was expected to support myself and then support her too. "That's not fair," my mother protested weakly. "What's not fair is making plans to move someone into my home without asking me first. What's not fair is expecting me to sacrifice my privacy, comfort, and independence because Amanda can't maintain a relationship or find her own apartment." "I'll double the rent contribution," my father offered as if the issue were merely financial. "Triple it even, just until she gets back on her feet." "This isn't about money," I explained, feeling suddenly exhausted. "This is about respect, about acknowledging that I'm an adult who deserves to be consulted about decisions that affect my life." "But where is Amanda supposed to go?" my mother wailed, returning to tears. "She already has a place to live with you. Beyond that, she's 25 years old. She can find an apartment like other adults do." "You know rental prices in this city," Amanda snapped. "I can't afford anything decent on my salary." "Neither could I for years," I replied. "That's why I had roommates, worked overtime, and lived frugally. That's how adults handle housing challenges, not by having their parents arrange for them to take over their sister's apartment." "I'm very disappointed in you," my mother said, pulling out her strongest weapon. "Very disappointed indeed." In the past, those words would have crushed me, sent me scrambling to make amends and earn back her approval. Now they simply confirmed I was finally standing up for myself. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said sincerely, "but I'm not changing my mind. My apartment is my space, and I get to decide who lives there." "If that's your attitude," my father said coldly, "then perhaps you should reconsider your role in this family." The implied threat hung in the air between us. Submit to their demands or risk being cast out. In that moment, I realized how often this same dynamic had played out with me. eventually giving in to maintain peace and preserve my place in the family. If being part of this family means having no say in my own life, then yes, maybe I do need to reconsider my role, I said, rising from my chair. I love you all, but I won't set myself on fire to keep Amanda warm. Not anymore. I gathered my purse and jacket, feeling strangely calm despite the confrontation. I'm going home now. My home where I make the rules and set the boundaries. When you're ready to respect those boundaries, we can talk again. I walked out of my parents' house to the sound of my mother's theatrical sobs, my father's angry protestations, and Amanda's stream of insults. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't look back or reconsider. I got in my car and drove away, my hands steady on the wheel, despite the emotional earthquake I had just experienced. The drive back to my apartment was surreal, as if I were watching myself from outside my body. Chicago's skyline glowed against the night sky, a constellation of lights that had always represented possibility and independence to me. Now those lights seemed to affirm the choice I had made to prioritize my needs and boundaries. As soon as I parked, I called Taylor, needing to process what had just happened with someone who would understand. "They did what?" she exclaimed after I recounted the dinner conversation. "Without even asking you first. That's insane, Ella." "It's pretty standard for my family," I replied, unlocking my apartment door and stepping into the quiet sanctuary I had created. "They've always made decisions for me, expected me to go along with whatever Amanda needs. And you actually stood up to them. I'm so proud of you. That must have been terrifying." "It was," I admitted, kicking off my shoes and collapsing onto my couch, "but also weirdly liberating. Like, for the first time, I set a boundary and didn't back down when they pushed back." We talked for over an hour, Taylor validating my feelings and reassuring me that I had done the right thing. After we hung up, I sat in the peaceful quiet of my apartment, taking in the space that was entirely mine. The blue walls, I had chosen the arrangement of furniture that suited my needs, the absence of compromise in every corner. For the first time since moving in, I fully appreciated what this space represented, not just independence, but self-respect. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in years, unburdened by the weight of others' expectations. The reprieve was short-lived. By morning, my phone was flooded with texts and missed calls from my family. My mother's messages oscillated between guilt trips. "I cried all night thinking about how you've changed," and anger, "After everything we've done for you." My father's were more direct threats. "You'll regret shutting out your family like this." Amanda's were simply nasty, calling me every selfish and cruel name she could think of. I silenced my phone and got ready for work, determined not to let their reactions derail my day or my resolve. At the office, my colleagues immediately noticed something was different. "You're standing taller today," my coworker James remarked during our morning coffee break. "Something good happened." I smiled, realizing he was right. I finally stood up for myself in a difficult situation. It didn't go well, but it needed to happen. "Good for you," he said sincerely. "Sometimes the hardest conversations are the most necessary ones." The workday proceeded normally until lunch, when the receptionist called to inform me my mother was in the lobby. "She says it's an emergency family matter," the receptionist explained, sounding concerned. I felt a flash of panic, then anger at my mother's tactics. "Please tell her I'm in meetings all afternoon and can't be disturbed," I instructed. "If it's truly an emergency, she can text me the details." No text came confirming what I already knew. There was no emergency beyond my refusal to comply with their demands. Later, my boss pulled me aside, her expression concerned. "Is everything okay, Ella? Your mother seemed quite upset in the lobby." I took a deep breath, deciding honesty was the best approach. "I'm establishing some boundaries with my family. They're not taking it well. I'm sorry she brought it to the office." To my surprise, my boss nodded with understanding. Boundaries are healthy and necessary. If you need any support or flexibility with your schedule while you navigate this, just let me know. Her unexpected support brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you. That means more than you know." The week continued with escalating attempts by my family to break through the boundary I had established. Relatives I rarely spoke with suddenly called claiming concern, but clearly dispatched by my parents to talk sense into me. My Aunt Susan, my mother's sister, was particularly persistent. "Your mother is beside herself," she chided during one call I was naive enough to answer. "You know how sensitive she is. You should apologize before this gets out of hand." "I have nothing to apologize for," I replied firmly. "I simply enforced a reasonable boundary." "But family comes first, Ella. Always. Even when that family consistently disregards my needs and autonomy." She had no good answer for that. The most alarming development came when my father sent an email stating he was removing me from their will unless I reconsider my position regarding Amanda's living situation. The transparent attempt at financial manipulation might have worked years ago, but now it only confirmed I was making the right choice in distancing myself. Meanwhile, Amanda found a temporary solution by moving in with a friend from her yoga class, though she made sure everyone knew this arrangement was far less convenient than living with me would have been. She posted passive-aggressive comments on social media about sisters who stab you in the back and family loyalty being dead, garnering sympathy from mutual acquaintances who only heard her side of the story. Through it all, I maintained my boundary, responding to communications with brief, clear messages reiterating my position. "I'm not changing my mind about my living situation," became my mantra, repeated calmly, regardless of the emotional manipulation techniques employed against me. In my weekly session with Dr. Melissa, I processed the aftermath of my stand at the family dinner. "They packed up some of Amanda's things before even talking to me," I told her, still shocked by the presumption. "They had already started implementing their plan without a single conversation with me." "That shows how little they expected you to resist," she observed. "They assumed compliance based on past patterns." "I feel guilty sometimes," I admitted. "Like maybe I should have found a way to help Amanda." Would finding her an apartment listing or offering to help her search have been sufficient? I laughed humorlessly. No, nothing short of giving her my bedroom would have satisfied them. "Then your guilt is misplaced," Dr. Melissa said gently. "You're not responsible for solving Amanda's housing issues, especially not at significant cost to your well-being. That's not selfish. That's self-preservation." Those conversations helped me weather the emotional storm of family pressure without giving in. I learned to distinguish between genuine guilt over hurting someone and manufactured guilt designed to make me comply. I practiced phrases like, "I understand you're disappointed, but my decision stands," and "I'm not discussing this further." Slowly, the barrage of calls and texts diminished as my family realized I wasn't going to cave under pressure. The silence that followed was both peaceful and painful, a necessary separation that gave me space to breathe, but also highlighted how conditional their love had always been. 3 months after the confrontation at my parents' house, my life had transformed in ways both subtle and profound. The most obvious change was professional. Without the constant drain of family drama and emotional labor, I found more energy and focus for my career. I took on additional responsibilities at work, leading a successful marketing campaign that caught the attention of senior management. My boss nominated me for an emerging leaders program within the company, a stepping stone to potential advancement I had never thought possible. "Your confidence has grown tremendously," she noted during my quarterly review. "You're advocating for your ideas more effectively and taking more initiative." The truth was, standing up to my family had made everything else seem less intimidating by comparison. If I could enforce boundaries with the people who had conditioned me from birth to comply with their demands, I could certainly speak up in a meeting or propose an innovative marketing strategy. My apartment, once just a place to live, had become a true sanctuary. I invested in making it uniquely mine, adding personal touches that would never have survived a family visit. A delicate glass vase collection displayed prominently on open shelving, white furniture that would show every scuff and stain, but brought me joy with its clean simplicity. Plants that required careful attention to thrive. Every element reflected my tastes and needs without compromise. The boundaries I established extended beyond my physical space to my time and energy as well. I learned to say no to commitments that didn't serve me, to decline invitations, without elaborate excuses, to prioritize activities that replenished rather than depleted me. I joined a local book club, took a pottery class, and started hiking on weekends, building connections with people who knew me as I was, now not as the compliant daughter I had been. My relationship with my family evolved slowly and painfully during those months. After the initial flurry of angry messages and attempts to force compliance, a strained silence fell between us. I used this breathing space to work with Dr. Melissa on establishing what healthy family relationships might look like moving forward. Your boundaries aren't punishments, she reminded me. They're guidelines for how you need to be treated in order to engage in the relationship. I decided to reach out first, sending a calm email explaining that while I loved them, I needed respect for my autonomy and boundaries in order to have a healthy relationship. I outlined specific behaviors that were unacceptable, like making decisions about my life without consulting me or using emotional manipulation when I didn't comply with their wishes. My father didn't respond at all. My mother sent a brief reply saying she needed time to process my accusations. Amanda blocked me on social media. A full month passed before my mother called, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Your father and I have been talking," she began. "We don't agree with how you've handled things, but we don't want to lose you completely." It wasn't an apology, but it was an opening. "I don't want to lose you either," I replied honestly. "But I need to know my boundaries will be respected." "We can try," she said, which was more concession than I had ever heard from her. "Maybe we could meet for coffee sometime," neutral ground. We met the following weekend at a cafe halfway between our homes. The conversation was stilted and uncomfortable, but free from the manipulative tactics that had characterized our interactions for years. She asked about my job, actually listening to my response. I asked about her volunteer work, genuinely interested in her life. We carefully avoided mention of Amanda or my apartment, sticking to safe topics, as we tentatively rebuilt a connection based on mutual respect rather than obligation. My father took longer to come around, his pride wounded by my refusal to bend to his will. When he finally agreed to meet 2 months after the confrontation, his first words were, "I still think you're being unreasonable, but your mother misses you." "I miss you both too," I said sincerely. "But I don't miss being treated like my needs don't matter." He harumphed, but didn't argue, a small victory in itself. Amanda's housing situation resolved itself without my involvement. She moved in with a new boyfriend after a whirlwind 2-week romance, posting triumphant social media updates about upgrading her living situation. Our parents, true to form, helped finance new furniture for the apartment and celebrated her independence, though she was still largely subsidized by them. We had no direct contact until my mother orchestrated a coincidental meeting at a family birthday gathering for my cousin. The tension was palpable as we awkwardly greeted each other across the buffet table. "Nice earrings," she said stiffly, the closest thing to a compliment she had ever offered me. "Thanks," I replied. "How's the new apartment working out?" "It's great. Perfect location." The conversation didn't progress much beyond that, but it was civil without the venom that had characterized our last interaction. It was progress, albeit small. By the time Christmas approached, we had established a new, more distant but healthier family dynamic. I accepted an invitation to holiday dinner with clear boundaries, communicated in advance. I would arrive at 2 and leave by 7. I would not discuss my living situation or personal finances. And any violation of these boundaries would result in my immediate departure. To my surprise, they respected these terms. The dinner was awkward at times, but peaceable, with conversations carefully navigating around trigger topics. My father even asked appropriate questions about my recent work project, making a visible effort to show interest in my career. As I reflect on the past 3 months, I realize that the confrontation at that Sunday dinner, while painful, was necessary for my growth. By standing firm in my refusal to let Amanda move into my apartment, I was really standing up for something much larger: my right to self-determination and respect. The journey hasn't been easy. There have been moments of doubt, nights spent questioning whether the estrangement was worth the peace I gained, days when familiar guilt threatened to erode my resolve. But each time I walk into my apartment, my sanctuary that belongs only to me, I am reminded that boundaries aren't selfish. They're essential. I've learned that family relationships, like all relationships, require mutual respect to be healthy. Love without respect isn't really love at all, but a form of control. True family supports each other's growth and independence, celebrates autonomy rather than punishing it. My relationship with my parents and sister may never be close in the conventional sense, but it has the potential to be healthier than it ever was before. By refusing to set myself on fire to keep others warm, I've discovered my own strength and worth. If you're struggling with family boundaries, know that you have every right to protect your space, your peace, and your independence. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Your home should be your sanctuary, and you get to decide who enters that sacred space. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own well being. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, healthy boundaries make healthy relationships possible.